Hi everybody, my name is Pavashya and today we'll do much more configurations on our this topology with new concepts of OSPF or with older concepts of OSPF with much more clarity. So this is our topology. In area 0 we have these three routers with different networks, right? I've already configured router 1's interface fast Ethernet 0/0 with OSPF. Now here R2 is not configured with OSPF, neither R3. Now let's check show IP interface brief and see how much neighbors he's surrounded with. So for that, we go show IP OSPF interface brief. Now as you can see here, it says zero neighbor as we have not configured any neighbor of its with OSPF. Right. And also let's check for its neighbor IP OSPF. It shows empty as no neighbor is configured with OSPF. Okay, so now we have the clarities. So now we have to configure R2 with OSPF. Let's go. Except router OSPF with process ID. Let's suppose one. Now we'll get the network. So network for this, for now we'll configure this fast Ethernet 0/0. For that we have to give this network 12.0.0.0. Now inverse mask 0.0.0.255 along with the area that is 0 area. Great. Now let's check for interface brief. Show interface brief. Now as you can see, it tells us okay, it has one neighbor. As you have configured this, so they are in neighborship. Right. Yes. And also check the neighbor IP OSPF. Okay, it tells us okay, this is the neighbor's router ID, which is basically this one. This is process ID and this is fast Ethernet or interface. Great. Now let's give the next interface fast Ethernet 1/0. Configure terminal router OS PF1 network. Okay, so which network? 23.0.0 along with inverse mask 55 area 0.0.0. Great. Now let's check neighbors. Show IP OSPF neighbor. It tells us one neighbor only. Great. As we have configured for this interface, we have configured for this interface as well. So this is connected to this, so it is taking it as neighbor, but R3 is not configured right now. So this is the reason it is giving us only one neighbor. Let's see interface. Show IP OSPF interface brief. Okay, so it tells us on this particular interfaces OSPF is enabled. This is the area in which they are operating. This is the IP address. Tells us okay, this comes under this IP address with this mask, cause and neighbor. Now, as you can see here, in fast Ethernet 0/0, it means on this, it is saying, okay, I'm connected with the neighbor, which is true. This 12.0.0.2 network, this is connected to this 12.0.0.1 R1, right? But this fast Ethernet 1/0, this particular is enabled with this IP address. Great. But it's not connected to any other router for now, as it is. R3 is not enabled with OSPF, so it is telling us zero neighbor. Right, great. Now let's go and configure R3. This will be much more sorted. Exit router OSPF with process ID network. Okay, so the network will give us 23.0.0.0 along with inverse mask area 0.0.0.0. Great. Now, first let's check the neighbors. Right? Yes. So show IV OSPF neighbor. So it is telling me that it is telling us that this is the neighbor. Right? It is talking about R2. 23.0.0.2 on this interface, right? Great. And this is the address. Now let's check the interface. Show IP OSPF interface brief. Okay, so this is the interface brief on this fast Ethernet 1/0. It is operating on this particular area. This is the IP address. Right, this 23.0.0.3/24, and it has a neighbor connected to it, which is our R2. Now let's go and check in R2. Let's check the neighbors now. Show IP OSPF. It has two neighbors right now. First is R1 and second is R3. So this is our R1. This is ID this, IP address this, and interface on this interface it is operating. Great. This is our right neighbor having this router ID, which is our R3. This is the IP address, this is the address, and this is the interface on which it is configured. Now, when we talk about this command show IP OSPF neighbor, it gives us the information of its own neighbor connected to it, right? And when we give this command IP OSPF interface brief, it tells us about its own information. It is telling us that okay, on this interface of mine, fast 0/0, this is the process ID, this is the area, this is the IP address along with the mask that you have configured, this is the cost, accumulated cost, this is the state I'm into, backup, designated router, these are the neighbors connected. Similarly for this, right? Now let's go and check on R1. Not neighbors, not interface, but just let's see the LSDB of it. Show IP OSPF database. Now as you can see, the very first thing that we have learned is whenever we see the LSDB of some router, first check the router ID so that we can identify which one is the received one or which one is our own LSA, right? So for this is the router ID 12.0.0.1. Okay, so now it is operating in area 0. So this is our own LSA, and these are the received ones. So as it is in a synchronized state, we are having the LSA of R2 as well as R3, right? And these are the informations, as you can see. Now there is one more command, and when we use this command, show IP OSPF database, so it gives us the summarized information of our OSPF's LSDB. Now, if you want to see the detailed one, then question mark. Okay, so we can go on these types, these particular LSAs also, right? Now let's take an example of router one. Now as you can see, it is giving me a detailed information, but we won't go into this. These are for the senior level things. So let's stick with what we have. So we have this information, right? So yeah, this was for this lecture. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.